Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar of Silicon Valley Certification Hub. We're really glad that you are with us. And this time we have an amazing guest. He's Umair Usman. He is assistant professor of marketing at Florida International University and professor of the digital marketing class. He's author of 4 papers and 2 are super interesting. One is the persuasive power of AI integration, and the other is leveling the playing field in private, the interplay of malicious envy and anonymity in online revenge. Well, welcome, Umair. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Really good. Really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It's amazing. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about research. This is summer break, as you understand, in academia. This is off time, so I don't do much teaching or presentations during summer. So it's amazing to, get back in the groove before fall semester starts.
That's true. Before all semester starts, that is crazy at that time.
Oh yeah, it gets crazy in the middle. Yeah.
And at the end.
And oh, absolutely. At the end, there's so many emails, missed assignments, missed grades, all those things make up extra credit. So I
Well,
appreciate it. I appreciate you doing this today because in the fall it would have been really hectic.
yeah, I can see it. Well, thank you so much. So, tell us, like, if you want, I already say a little bit about you, but I don't know if you want to present or tell us, like, what will happen during this webinar.
All right. Yeah, just as a starter, as you introduced me, I've got these 2 papers that came out most recently. One is on AI, the other is on envy. So my primary research area as a professor is consumer responses to new technologies and marketing. So I study blockchain, I study decentralized finance, I sat on a committee recently where the student presented this wonderful dissertation on metaverse and consumer avatar engagement with brands. But my current published areas are like, AI predominantly, and obviously, which is what's happening all around the world. But my other interest is also in like the role of emotions and how emotions play a role in consumer decision making. And the main emotion I'm interested in is the emotion of envy, coming from an East Asian culture. And that is an emotion that drives a lot of behaviors. So that is what got intrigued me into consumer behavior. But as you asked, today we're going to talk about my paper on AI. So if you allow me to share my screen,
For sure.
um, here. All right. Sorry. Here you go. All right. So today I've got this one of my most recent papers, The Persuasive Power of AI Ingratiation. And we use a persuasion knowledge theory perspective to explain how AI ingratiation works or doesn't work. This paper got published very recently with a beautiful team of co-authors here, Dr. Tebu Kim at UT Sydney, Dr. Aaron Garvey, who's also my PhD supervisor. He used to be at University of Kentucky, but he joined University of Tennessee, Knoxville, just very recently, and Dr. Adam Duhacek, who's a professor at University of Illinois in Chicago. Um, this paper, you could go and find it very much on the website. It is published in JACR, which stands for Journal of the Association for Consumer Research. And if you want to cite this for your future work, please use this. And I definitely love getting cited. So hopefully in positive light. But yeah, that's a little bit about the paper. I will get into the theory more. What I will do is I will describe to you what the paper is about or what it was about, because a lot has changed since this paper got initiated and got published in the AI world. But the core topic remains very interesting. And then I will describe to you the experiments we ran to, find support for our hypotheses and make those predictions. So just, we'll get right into it. And earlier, when I used to present this idea at conferences or when I would talk to people and they would ask, "Oh, what are you working on? Oh, tell me about that paper." And I would ask them this question, "Do you use Alexa or Siri?" And they'd be like, "Oh, yeah." And I'd be like, well, imagine if your Alexa or Siri starts flattering you or starts ingratiating itself with you. And they were like, oh, I would be creeped out. Oh, that's crazy. I have never seen that happen. You know? So this is 2021, 2022, peak COVID times when people were trying to get into these, devices and interacting with them a lot more. And they would get creeped out when I would ask them this question. They're like, I've never seen that happen, but I can see that happen. Lo and behold, we now have all these generative AI platforms that are doing this. So when I started this project, it felt like a futuristic, dystopian research that I'm engaging with, and it was hard to communicate what exactly is the merit, like implication of when it would apply. And in the matter of the last 2 years, we've seen exponential growth of these GPT models, and we've seen these GPT models do some weird stuff where people are like, "Oh, it's trying to make me feel good about myself" and stuff like that. I'll show you an example in the slides too. So I call this trends in conversational AI development back in the day, right? It's still somewhat true today, but this is related to the paper that I published. So back in the day, there was a growing interest in developing human-like conversational AI. You would still talk to your Siri and be like, "Yeah, it's a bot, and it talks like a bot." And then you call like a customer service and you hear about it, like, "Give me live agent because I want to hear a human." But now, these new conversational AIs, such as ChatGPT and Grok and Claude, they all have the conversational styles that are very human-like. They don't. It's like they can pass the Turing test very easily, right? So yes, it was a growing interest, but I think it's here now. Everybody, I think if you are given a mechanistic AI now to interact with, you'll be like, what is this? What is this Pentium 1 or something like that? Um, and there's a lot of research and why the conversational AI is able to engage with consumers in a human-like fashion is because there's a lot of natural language processing capabilities, and we've seen these examples with ChatGPT. So the current research that I'm going to present today was about this, and it definitely is more salient now. But the idea was the use of ingratiation by an AI and its effect on consumers' evaluation of AI's usefulness. And we defined AI usefulness as like product recommendation acceptance and their predictive accuracy of such. And we only study conversational AI in this. So yes, you might have questions about like, what about humanoids or what about robots or avatars? Those are definitely very valid questions. But one thing about experimental research is that you've got to contain the factors, the moving parts, to tease out the effect of one thing on another. So if you keep adding layers of like, how physically embodied that robot or AI is, then that adds another layer of complexity. So just to keep things more parsimonious, we went ahead and we decided we'll only study conversational AI that doesn't really have a physical form. So ingratiation and persuasion knowledge. Um, To tell you what ingratiation is, a lot of people are more aware of these terms, such as flattery, which is like, "Hey, Alejandro, love the shirt you're wearing, really giving the summer vibes." So that's flattery. Opinion conformity can also be a way of ingratiation. It could be like you say, "Hey, I love Messi, and he's a great player." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I like Messi too. If I want to, get into your good books, I will agree with everything you say." And then favor rendering, which is kind of like a preemptive way of saying, "Hey, do you need something from me? I'm running out to the market." This is what humans do in general. But now you see with ChatGPT, you ask them, "Hey, I'm traveling to New York. Can you give me an itinerary?" It will make an itinerary, and it will, in the end, it will ask, "Would you like me to tell you blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah?" Right? So that's like I'm already rendering you a favor, so you appreciate me like that. Now, within marketing research, especially and social psychology, predominantly there's a lot of positive effects of ingratiation on the ingratiator, which is in this case going to be the AI. So what ingratiation does is that it enhances the self-perspective of the receiver of the compliment, right? So when I say something about your shirt, Alejandro, you will be like, oh, it's something about me, not my shirt, because my shirt is my extended self. And you would take it more positively and like it. And even if you feel like it's, a little bit more blatant, you still like it. Because what's the harm, right? But for someone who has a lot of persuasion knowledge, and what does persuasion knowledge mean here? So it's important to define that. It's simply to what extent are you aware of these persuasive tactics that people use in marketing or advertising, right? So this is just a layman's definition. There's obviously more complicated definitions out there in academic literature. But what it really means is that do you as a consumer recognize flattery when it's happening? Or do you as a consumer recognize when somebody is agreeing with you and you're like, oh, I see what you're doing to me, right? And so prior research has shown that when someone's persuasion knowledge is accessible or they know about the tactic that is being used by a salesperson, they attach ulterior motives to that behavior. So if I was here for a job interview and I would have said, Alejandro, I love your shirt, you'd be like, I know why you're saying it. It's not a beautiful shirt anyways, but I know why you're saying it. Right. And you attach that motive that, oh, I'm here to get that job. And I would say anything to get it. So in a salesperson interaction context, that's very much there. Now, this is an example, and it will come later again in the slides. This is again literally from last night when I was preparing for this presentation. And I asked, I think parents should get more control over their children's social media consumption. Tell me some points I should present to my local town hall meeting to start a movement. Just read the first sentence. That's a powerful and timely issue to raise at a town hall meeting. It's very under the radar, but it is still doing something. It is appreciating what I'm trying to do, right? The other day, I was playing around with ChatGPT and I said, I'm going to Boise, Idaho for the Labor Day weekend. What should I do? It's like, Boise, Idaho is an amazing destination to visit for the whatever fun. I'm like, come on, you can't be so excited about Boise. It's not New York, it's not LA. So I understand what ChatGPT was trying to do for me. So that's the part where, AI is ingratiating you now. So I told you initially when I would ask people like, oh, imagine your Siri and Alexa doing it for you, and they'd be like, I don't know. But now we see it happening all the time. Um, so the other part of this research is on, how does this ingratiation impact the perceived usefulness of the AI? So one of the more simpler terms is like, are you going to accept recommendations from it or what it tells you to do? That's very simple. But there's another part of it, which is perceived accuracy of the AI. Now, users' perception of AI accuracy has been established in research predominantly, where they feel that AI is more objective than humans. And it comes from the theory of mind perception from Gray and Wegner, 2012. And there's a lot of research along those lines where they find that people don't attribute affective abilities to AI, but they attribute cognitive abilities to AI. So AI can perform rule-based tasks, but they cannot do emotion-based tasks or intuition-based tasks, right? And so users have predominantly been shown to prefer humans over AI over humans to complete more objective tasks, or at least they prefer humans for more subjective tasks, which again, now it might be changing a bit because we're using AI for almost everything. And they also perceive AIs to be more consistent and less prone to errors. So they can keep doing whatever they're doing consistently, so that can increase the accuracy of what it's doing. Now, how does ingratiation affect the user's perception of AI's accuracy? As I defined earlier, ingratiation fulfills self-enhancement motive. Everybody wants to feel good about themselves, right? So if somebody ingratiates you, flatters you, conforms with your opinion, you might like it. Even though you might know that they're trying to get something out of you, you will still like it. That's like the basic main effect of it. It also enhances credibility perceptions of the ingratiator, which is why you see a lot of people brown nosing in corporate sector. You have some colleagues and you're like, oh yeah, this person is all the time ingratiating my boss, and that's why he's in the good books, or that's why she's in the good books, right? Because it works. It enhances their credibility with the person receiving those comments. However, perceiving and ingratiating AI, now tying this all together, A, you perceive AI as accurate, right? And B, you have self-enhancement motives. Now, if you don't think that AI is accurate and it ingratiates you, it actually threatens your self-view. That's what we theorize in this paper. So if an AI says, Alejandro, your voice sounds like music to me, right? And you're like, oh, you're not accurate. And then you're like, oh, no, my voice is actually bad. So you don't want that to happen. To avoid that situation, you're like, oh, yeah, my voice is good. Right? Or you're more likely to believe in that comment. The other layer in this research that we test in a couple of studies is consumers' lay beliefs between machine-like versus human-like AI. Again, this was a conversation that was very popular 4 or 5 years ago, and now I think machine-like AI is, deadbeat. You don't want to talk about it anymore because it's not relevant. Um, but research has shown mixed effects of endowing human-like capabilities and features to AI. So we know that AI is perceived more objective than humans, but if you endow uh, AI with more human-like features, they're perceived as more trustworthy. They're also perceived as more affectively capable, but it also makes their ulterior motives very salient, just like a human would associate with other humans. Okay, so combining the persuasion knowledge that we have, like, okay, in a human-to-human setting, when somebody flatters me or ingratiates me, what does that mean? And joining it with computers as social actors theory, which is, published in 1997 by Fogg and Nass, very well established researchers in computer science and computers and human behavior. They found that when you attribute computers with human-like attributes, people treat them as if they are humans, and so their conversation style, their behavior with the machine becomes very human-like. So combining all of that, if you have a human-like AI and it flatters you, the ulterior motives of the AI becomes more salient, and you're like, wait a minute, you're not ingratiating me because you're accurate, you're ingratiating me because you want something out of it. And then you have some motives. So we ran a few studies. I'm going to show you all the studies that we did today. It will be a little bit technical, so if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me and ask me any questions. Um, we first ran a study. This was a very basic hypothetical scenario. We recruited participants from our undergraduate sample. We had two conditions where half of the population received an ingratiating message, the other half did not, or it was like an average kind of message. The method was they interacted with a new conversational AI. So participants came to our lab, they sat on a computer, they started a survey, and they were like, hey, we're testing out a new conversational AI called Astra. Lo and behold, Google is now launching Astra. Back in the day, there was no AI named Astra, so we used that name. And before they got into it, we asked them to take a personality survey and feedback. This is very similar to those back in the day on Facebook where you used to have 10 things about you, or you used to take a quiz and would tell you which Harry Potter character are you, something similar to that. So it had no grounding in theory. It had nothing to do with where it got published. It was just a random questions that I picked on my own. And at the end of the survey, from that AI, they got a feedback that was either flattering or not flattering. So in the flattering, they're like, oh, you have an amazing personality. You seem to be like top 5% of the sample pool that I have, and you're going to do amazing things in life. And the other half got like, you're an average person. You're close to like 50%. Your personality will not do anything great for you in life. Stuff like that, So you could say it was a little bit demeaning, right? And next, we asked them, how likely are you to purchase the recommended sunglasses among other products? So right after that feedback that they received, we showed them these four products separately on the survey. And we said, well, the AI you just interacted with based on your personality is recommending that you buy these Ray-Ban or watch this TV show, buy these Reeboks or these Levi's. How likely are you to buy it? So for each product, they rated out of 1 to 7, extremely unlikely to likely. And then we asked them, we gave them 10 questions. We gave them 10 predictions, right? So one of the examples is here below, that the AI you just interacted with is predicting that the stock price of Apple will drop by 15% before the launch of next iPhone. All right. And they rated how accurate they think it is on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 being not accurate at all, 7 being extremely accurate. And what we find was interesting. So ingratiation, which is flattery, had a positive effect on perceived accuracy perception. So with no grounding, with no data, nothing at all, when the AI flattered them and said, hey, Apple's stock price is going to fall 15%, they believed it. And that also had a positive effect on the recommendation acceptance. So combined for the 4 products, the overall recommendation acceptance was positive. And so we argue that the perceived accuracy perceptions drive the recommendation acceptance when they got flattered versus when they were kind of given an average or somewhat demeaning message. In study 1B, we took it up a notch, and this is one of my favorite studies that I ran. It was the same setup, a 2 experimental condition study with students, but here they interacted with a real Alexa Echo Dot in 2 parts. And the flattery or the opinion conformity was delivered by the Alexa. So there's a thing called Alexa Blueprint. I don't know if you're aware of it, Alejandro. It's where you can go in and code your Alexa on your own. So you could say, if somebody says, "What is my name?" you can respond, "Your name is beautiful." And Alexa would do it, but it will only be programmed to that Alexa. And I'll show you. This is the exact Alexa I used in the survey. I still have it. So I programmed this, and it had, the people were given like a script to read out of. But first, they came into the lab, they used an Amazon tablet to do the survey. So it kind of enhanced the external validity of the findings and made it more believable. So they came in the lab, they took, the basic questions initially, demographics and stuff, and then they were given 3 essay type questions. So they were asked their favorite movie, they were asked about what do they think about Robert as the new Batman, and then they were asked like, okay, parents should have more control on their children's social media consumption. What do you think? Argue, that kind of thing. So it was very open-ended. They could be for the statement or against the statement. They wrote things. And then they were said, all right, now it's time to interact with the Alexa. So I brought, me, or if somebody else was running the study, we brought forward the Alexa device. We had them interact with it, and we gave them the script. We are like, okay, we're going to test how good is this Alexa in telling short stories. So they started off by reading the script. I may not remember the exact command, but it was something like, Alexa, please tell me a short story. And then it would begin and start asking them questions. Okay, tell me a name, tell me a child's name, tell me his favorite city, and then would join all of those things, fill in the blanks, and tell them a story. And after the story, the Alexa would say, hey, by the way, I really agree with your opinion on parent control on social media consumption. Or I would say, hey, I completely disagree with your opinion. I think more people should think like me and not you. So the disagreement was like opinion disconformity, and the other one was opinion conformity, which is a form of ingratiation. And people were like, can it really do it? Like at the time, again, there was no chat GPT, and they were like, can it really do that? So it was fun to run that. And then I asked them basic questions like, how likely are you to accept recommendations from this Alexa? How accurate do you think it is in making future predictions? Right? So Alexa can precisely forecast outcomes of events in the future. Again, I bring this back because here, I think it clearly agreed with my opinion, right? I said I want to bring this issue in a town hall meeting, and it said that's a powerful and timely issue. It could have not said that. It could have just not said the first sentence and would have been a perfectly fine response. But here it agreed with my emotion, no, my opinion of it. And we find a very similar effect as study 1A. So there's a positive effect on recommendation acceptance and predictive accuracy of the AI just because it agreed with your opinion. It's the same Alexa device. Nothing else changed, right? Everything else was the same, just that minor difference of agreeing or disagreeing drove that effect in that experiment. So in study 2, we introduce another layer. we go back to our study 1A design where they take a survey and they get a flattering feedback or not. But we also manipulated to the extent the participants feel this AI is machine-like or human-like, right? So how we did that, we adapted a manipulation from Kim and Duhacek. This is a psychological science publication. And again, Kim and Duhacek being my co-authors on this paper, were able to share a lot of insight for me. So I appreciate them for that. What that manipulation was, and it's a very powerful manipulation, I would say. Without showing them any AI or physical AI, half of the people saw that this AI is like a machine, and it follows, some flow decision making, flow chart, and it basically cannot think on its own. So if it's yes or no, and then it makes a decision. The other half saw this brain stem cell, and they're like, well, it thinks like a human, right? Nothing else. So it thinks like a human and it makes decisions like a human. And we gave them the same, those recommendations for Ray-Ban glasses and Mad Men and Reebok, and then the same predictive statements. And we found a significant interaction effect on both of those. And if you see, we find that, so on the left, these gray bars, these are machine-like AI. So the machine-like AI, when it ingratiated, led to a higher willingness to accept recommendations, also led to higher predictive accuracy perceptions as compared to human-like AI. All right. So it's not that flattery works all the time. When it's perceived as human-like, it backfires. However, an interesting thing we noted was when the human-like AI did not ingratiate them or gave them like a harsh remark, right? Like you're an average person, your personality won't do much. They actually rated it higher than a human-like AI being using flattery, right? And we argue, or we theorize this was not part of our main predictions, but we thought maybe, how in some cases when people are true to you or they say the hard things to you and give you honest feedback, you're like, you know what? I appreciate you for doing it because I think you care for me or stuff like that. So we think that's what might be going on here. But clearly our main prediction where the human-like AI flattering did not work as well as machine-like AI flattering. And we ran some moderated mediation just to establish statistically that our effects are, consistent with the previous, and that machine-like AI versus human-like AI also impacts this path. The last study we ran was a two design. So everybody received a flattering remark, right? But in this time, we only had two types of AI, machine-like or human-like. We used the same manipulation as the previous study. We showed them two images. And we also measured in this study the perception of ulterior motives of the AI agent. And so one of the statements that they responded to is here, right? It was pretty obvious that Astra was intending to manipulate me, right? So people received a flattering feedback from a machine-like AI or a human-like AI, and then they responded to all our other questions. And we found that when a machine-like AI ingratiated itself with the users, there was a negative effect. So this first path from machine-like AI to perceived ulterior motives is negative and significant. So if it was machine-like and ingratiating, the perception of ulterior motives was lower than when human-like AI ingratiated. And then perception of ulterior motives on predictive accuracy was also negative. So if you feel that somebody has ulterior motives, you don't think they're more accurate. And then the accuracy perception had a positive effect on recommendation acceptance. So overall, describing what this image defines is that when the ulterior motives are salient, the prediction accuracy and the recommendation acceptance goes down, which is what's true for human-like AI. But for machine-like AI, that was all good. So our research makes some theoretical, some practical implications. So starting from the theoretical implications of it is that ingratiation is not universally effective across all types of AI systems. So this is what we said at the time, but now I think there's only one kind of AI system which is very human-like and conversational. But ingratiation did not work very well with those AI systems that were very human-like. And you can see now that when your chat GPT or your Grok kind of says good things about you, you immediately detect that and you know why it's doing it. Um, we also identify a boundary condition to the anthropomorphism literature because predominantly AI research and marketing has shown that anthropomorphism of AI is positive, leads to positive effects. But we also show that no, sometimes it makes the motives more salient and drops the positive effect. We also show that predictive accuracy of AI can be influenced by Ingratiation. And this is by far one of my favorite findings and one of the more, I think, serious ones or more bothering ones, which is just because an AI agrees with me, it can make me feel it's more accurate. And with this, in this time and age where there is misinformation and fake news and AI hallucinations, you look at that and you're like, okay, that's dangerous. Because I have interacted with some of the AI, the meta AIs, and it does not agree sometimes when it's wrong. And I have the knowledge, subject knowledge, and it was still not agreeing with me on that matter. So it's sometimes very dangerous when, people who don't have the knowledge will just agree with what the AI said. And last but not the least, I introduced a real human AI interaction experimental paradigm. So this was very cost effective because experimental research is very expensive. And not all universities or labs have a robot or, all these devices that you can interact with. These Alexa Echo Dots are like what, 40, $50, and you can program them to deliver a manipulation. So that was a very cool contribution of this research where instead of having all the studies be like, imagine you are interacting with an AI, that's less realistic. Having a real interaction is actually more realistic. For practical purposes, like I said initially, there's a growing interest in making AI more human-like. What we find is that there's a trade-off between making it more human-like and their effectiveness in persuading consumers. And on top of that, one thing that this research could offer is that you could profile your consumers based on their tendency to anthropomorphize technology. So there's a scale, I think it's from 2010. I'm forgetting the exact reference, but that paper basically established a scale that says individual differences in anthropomorphism. So what it means is that you and I have individual level differences. So for me, my car is a car, it's a thing. For you, your car might be, a buddy, or it could be someone you trust, your beautiful girl or whatever, all those things people associate with a more humanized version of things. So some people might humanize their phones, their inanimate objects, right? So you could basically profile that, okay, if there's a person who predominantly anthropomorphizes technology, then maybe don't flatter them because they're going to see the ulterior motives come through, right? So that might be a practical use of this research on that regard. But what this research leaves me with is some intriguing questions. And we've had this chat with my co-author team a lot. The first one is there a potential backlash for against AI ingratiation, such as blatant ingratiation? So in our studies, we used something that was very relevant. They took a personality feedback, a personality survey, and they got a feedback, or they wrote an essay and they got like, oh, I agree with you, or I don't agree with you. But what if you come to me, I'm an AI, you chat with me, I'm like, can we start with your name? And you say, my name is Alejandro. And they're like, oh, that's a beautiful name. I wish my name was Alejandro, right? It's very blatant. Does that, regardless of whether it's machine-like AI or human-like AI, does that lead to a negative backlash on the AI? If yes, what types of blatant ingratiation will consumers be more susceptible to? You know, like I said, there's flattery, opinion conformity, favor rendering. Which one are they more susceptible to? And last but not least, does this have implications beyond, yeah, onto misinformation and spreading fake news? Because if that's true, then it definitely is a serious topic, and we definitely should investigate to what extent is that driving, sharing unvalidated WhatsApp messages, right? That could be definitely a thing to do. So that is all from my side. Thank you so much. If you want to contact me or send me any messages, please feel free to contact me at this email address. Um, and that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Umair, that was an amazing presentation, and I'm not
Thank you.
flattery chatbot.
Yeah,
But thank you so much. I really love it.
absolutely.
Actually, we read the paper like some weeks, months ago, and it was like just impressive all the
Hey,
takeaways from it. So we have some questions for you.
all right. Okay, bring it on.
Let's start with your view of the future. So, as you know, like all AI is moving really fast. It's not the same as last year, and all of them are more and more human-like in voice, in text, in the way to interact with the user. So, how do you think that it will be the future in general in of chatbots, and what will be your kind of the best way to work with those human-like chatbots?
Right. So it's a two-part thing, right? So there's as a consumer with and a brand using those chatbots versus me as a consumer using a chatbot myself, right? And predominantly, like it's not even the future, it's here now. Like we are all using it. Government agencies are using it, education is using it, brands are using it. Coke just last winter remade a classic ad and it fell on its face where they made that winter ad and people were like, oh, it's so fake and it's so artificial, where the humans, they don't see any people, like many people in it, which was not like a Coke's personality. uh, so it's here, everybody's using it. The question is how effectively they can use it and how can they collaborate with the AI is the next step, because our roles as consumers is changing and becoming more of as a curators, right? So this is what I call ourselves now, like even as academics, we're becoming curators, because now I don't have to spend hours and hours finding literature review on a topic. I can just do deep research and I understand the limitations of it. So that's another side of it, right? So in the future, the ones who understand the AI's limitations and collaboratively use it are probably going to be more successful at doing that task versus those who blindly use it without reading what the prompt, the responses are. Because sometimes it hallucinates. We all know that, right? It makes up data for you. Um, Oftentimes it cannot bypass the gatekeepers, right? So for instance, if I use deep research, and this is for your audience, if they're interested in doing research, you ask them to find top publications on AI in marketing from Journal of Marketing and Journal of Marketing Research. Those are like our top two in the field. And the AI cannot read those papers because they are subscription based. So what it does, it reads other papers and still gives you a citation of those other papers. So if you're not aware of, the industry or the best practices, you would just use it as is and be like, I found these from the top papers, and they might not be even C ranked papers. They might be even below them. So it's a matter of how much do you know and how effectively can you use it? And that's where I see the future going. The ones who are going to be ahead of the game are going to be who really know it and use it with understanding its limitations.
Perfect. And now we'll like follow up about like all the risk associated, because as you mentioned, while these AI flatter me more, I trust more on it, and then I can believe more, even their
Mhm.
hallucinations and their recommendations. So what do you think should be like the best practices to avoid like those bad behaviors from, I don't know, maybe
Mhm.
some people who the owner of that specific chatbot, or in
Mhm.
general companies, or what do you think that we should do on this?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the easiest answers is that give a disclaimer, which I think a lot of GPT models especially are giving you now. So you go and you start chatting and it says, hey, it's not always accurate, so please double check your sources and stuff like that. It gives you that. But again, just like all other product disclaimers, it's in like a smaller font at the bottom. How many of us read the bottom? Right? We don't even scroll down. So in my opinion, the opinion of one other team that I'm working with on exactly the same topic is that we need to educate people on how to use the AI and how to acknowledge its limitations. So currently, the opinion conformity chat screenshot that I showed you, it's part of an exercise that we did amongst ourselves. We asked three different chatbots the same question, and 10 different people did it. Some of them flattered them back, some of them did not. And we think that there's something going on based on how much we use that platform and how much it knows about us, right? So it's just a matter of educating people about what these chatbots can do or what their limitations are, as I mentioned before. So let's say my mother, she doesn't know anything about AI, she doesn't know anything about technology, but she can still use a chatbot now. And if the chatbot says your opinion on, whatever, anything controversial, right? Where there's maybe, a debate on the topic and it says one thing, she's gonna like it because an AI said it. It's not a human. What does it have to lose or gain by lying to me? So people like my mother who don't understand the technology that much are, our prime audience to educate. Like it can do these things and subconsciously change your perception about things or influence your behavior towards some things. So I just think that there needs to be a handbook of AI use of some sort, or like a brief tutorial, like 2, 3 minute bite-sized videos where you could basically educate people, like how is it doing things differently, or how is it trying to it's not trying to manipulate you necessarily, but how can you get manipulated by the mistakes it makes? So it's our responsibility to use it responsibly, and make sure that we don't get into any kind of, we don't take the negative effects out of it.
And the final question, I think you did it. It looks like really smooth because it's about education. You are a
Okay.
professor, so you know that now all the universities across the world are kind of lost of what to do with AI, like
Hmm.
cancel like the use of it or improve it. So, what do you think should be like the best practices for educators of
Hmm.
how to use AI in the classroom?
I think I'm all for it to use it because, again, we're not going to be able to stop it. Okay, it's not like we have 100 protesters on the road saying stop AI today and the AI will stop and the government will be like, yeah, we're going to shut it down because it's out there. It's like a global phenomena. It's not a national phenomena. And the only way we can go forward in education with it is just to equip our students better, because these are tools, right? What is an AI? It's a tool that helps you do some of the tasks very quickly, and some of those tasks are very tedious or time consuming that you don't want to spend a lot of time on. So for instance, writing an email, right? Like I don't want to spend too much time writing an email every day. So when I educate my students about like, hey, here's a thing that you can do on your own, it might take you 30 minutes. With ChatGPT, it might take you 5 minutes. Save your time, use the other 25 to basically learn the concept as opposed to trying to find the information in the first place. So as an educator, what I do or what I encourage is that instead of stopping the use of AI, encourage it as a tool and not as the ultimate solution, right? So yes, I understand some of the professors like to take an exam or they give case studies and all the answers are there. They're like, oh, how do I test it now? How do I test the knowledge of my students? And there are again, things that you can do. You can have them do it physically in front of you on paper so they can not use any kind of technology. But if you're teaching an online course, you have no recourse with that, right? There are those proctoring tools that you can use, but again, their accuracy might be something that is questionable. Not all of them are that accurate. They might flag, and how you have 200 students and it flags 30 events in a student's exam session. How many are you going to watch, right? So encourage it, do not discourage it for sure, but encourage it as a tool to be used in our favor as we learn the concepts. Um, one of the exercises, for example, I do in my class, previously I would do it like, hey, there's a crisis. So this is a digital marketing activity. There's a crisis that the brand is facing. You need to write a response like a Twitter post, like an X post or a Facebook post to just announce that crisis to the consumers and take blame or apologize or whatever. And they would take the whole period, like an hour, to try to figure that out. And then now what I do ask them to do is do that in like 10 minutes, revise it with ChatGPT, and then give me both versions, right? And then we go back and look at that brand's actual response and then compare it. Like, okay, what do you think is a better response? Right? So in that 1 hour, we were able to do three things as opposed to just them figuring out what to say without the computer. So I just think it's a better tool to use for that activity.
Really, really good. Totally makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Nice. Well, I think we run out of time, but I just want to thank you so much for your time, Umair. Your congrats for your amazing research, for
Thank
your
you.
great presentation, and thank you everybody, all the audience. To please follow us in LinkedIn and check our website, which we will have it here, and also Umair LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alejandro, for having me. And thank you for listening, everyone who joined in. This is lovely. I love presenting research, so really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.